everyone, and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. It's time once again for new acquisitions, and I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Dan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing?
It is time to review us some comic books. We have 4 comics to review together today, and then each of us has 4 comics separately, so lots of stuff to review today. A couple of big releases. We've got the end of Thor: God Bomb. We've got the beginning of Infinity. I just like saying that, the beginning of Infinity. And as always, I want to say thanks to Elite Comics out here in Overland Park, Kansas, for helping us out with the show. Let's begin right now, Dan, with Thor: God of Thunder, number, what are we on, 11?
11, yes.
So, God Bomb, conclusion. How do you feel about how they finished this one off?
I thought it was really interesting. I liked it quite a bit. I liked, again, that Aaron doesn't get too preachy with all the religion stuff in here. The main point of this book is just sort of validating Thor as a character and the idea of benevolent rulers and that sort of thing. He doesn't say that you definitively need to have gods for the universe to be a good place or a bad place. It's just sort of power is a thing that's always gonna separate in a society people. There's always going to be a ruling class sort of thing, and it's just depends on what sort of ruler you get. Someone that abuses that power, or someone that uses it for good ends. And we see Gore's sort of final descent into madness at the end here, which was really interesting. The stuff, the revelations about his son and his family. I don't want to spoil them, right? Because it adds another layer of dimension to the character, which makes him even more interesting than he was before. But I just loved all the character work here, and I can't say enough good things about it. It was great. Yeah, I think
I like the way Aaron resolves this. At the end, at first, I felt like, not that it was a cop-out, but that I just see, this is hard to talk about without giving things away, right? But I'll just say that the way it ends, there are certain things that it's as if they never happened. But I don't know how else you could have possibly really handled it, because like we have with a lot of Marvel books right now, especially X-Men, we keep talking about this, you have kind of difficulties when you start messing with the timeline. Inevitably, you've got to put things back together, and so, this becomes more of a character study of Thor than it is about seeing any of the 3 individual Thors go through a character arc. I mean, they do,
right?
But importantly, when you get to the end, the young Thor, the one that hasn't gotten the hammer yet, still doesn't have the honor and the integrity yet to be able to pull the hammer out. That's really important, I like that this isn't again, it's more of a character study. It's more than it is a story. It's more of a, really, it's almost as if Gore is our tragic protagonist in a way, because we get to see him go from a place to another place and kind of study that guy. But with Thor, it's more here's what he was, here's where he is, and here's what he could be, and he could be better than that.
Very good point. And it's the classic sort of comic book thing where a writer gets to play with the toys, and then you have to put them nicely back in the toy box the same way you got them by the end. But I think Aaron does it in such a way, like you had said, where we're studying Thor's character and almost seeing him as if he's went through a character arc with the 3 incarnations. You get him at 3 stages in his life where he's a completely different person.
Right.
So you, in a strange way, get a character arc, but all 3 of those versions of Thor don't really change by the end.
You have to assume that of the incarnation that we saw, the kind of Odin-ish version of Thor won't even really exist later on.
Right, exactly. So it's a really interesting kind of thing, and Aaron does touch on the end here too about the whole thing with Odin and Thor always struggling against becoming his father and trying to please his father and become the son he wants him to be, which I really enjoyed because that's at the core of what Thor is all about.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I enjoy about it.
That's what the story for Thor ended up being about. And that wasn't necessarily on the nose in your face throughout the whole thing.
It also wasn't. It also wasn't on the page from day one, and I thought that added a wonderful layer to this, where it could have very easily just been a cosmic there's a bad guy that wants to destroy all the gods, and Thor's got to go stop him. I don't know why, but for some reason, the time travel element of this was kind of necessary.
It was.
I felt like, because I like that the God Butcher is a character that Gore is a character that Thor defeats by himself. I mean, it takes 3 of them, but it doesn't take the entire Marvel universe. Nobody else knows about this, and I like that it's that intimate for Thor because it's about something that most of the other characters in the Marvel universe can't possibly understand. Like we are gods, but as we've talked about before, what exactly does that really mean? And he really plays with that. And yeah, I like that he doesn't that it doesn't get to the end and it's like, no, we don't need gods. They're really just beings with superpowers, and we oughta find a way for them to just be beings with superpowers, and no one should worship them. I like that there's more than one side to that, and that it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, I agree. And I really liked there's a joke in here that Aaron makes that it goes to a place here that's kind of dark for the current Thor. Towards the sort of the middle of the issue, like when the story's all wrapped up, then we get a little bit of like epilogue of closing everything out by the end. And there's this little joke that I thought they were going into a place where I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they just did that, and then it turns into something that's freaking hilarious, but very like in the spirit of this whole religion story that Aaron's been telling throughout these 11 issues. So it was some people might get a little aggravated because it's like playing with the toys very violently and then just, not dealing with the consequences of it really, but I took it in sort of a funny way. I sort of got where he was going and what he was commenting on, so I like that.
I could see if the ending of this were to turn people off. I could completely see that. At the same time, I interpreted a lot, and I mean, like, I'm a little biased because I just loved every moment of this book. Of this arc. I like that. From its inception, from the opening of it, it feels like it's so big that there's nowhere else Aaron could possibly go with this book when this arc is over. And when you get to the end of the arc, it feels like he just got on. It feels like this was his lead-in story. This was just a little fun story he had to tell before he really gets into his Thor run that might actually more impact the universe.
Yeah, have repercussions for the character.
Yeah, exactly. This sort of kind of does, but again, he doesn't remember everything at the end. So, but yeah, it's really interesting. It feels almost like a prologue for something.
Yeah,
while we were reading it, it felt like this huge thing. Yeah, but I sort of enjoyed having my expectations turn on their head in that particular way. There's one thing that really cracked me up, and I will say this somewhat cryptically because again I don't want to give it too much away. But the narration box that said that was about Rising 3 days later.
Yeah, that was really funny.
That was really funny.
That was the joke I was talking about.
Is that what you were talking? See, I wasn't sure if that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Boy, that was really funny.
Yeah, I correct them.
Anyway, let's move on, shall we? To Infinity #1. And this, of course, is by
Hickman and Jimmy Chung.
Yeah, and the first thing I should say about this is the art is so beautiful. It's really,
I love Jimmy Chung's
really
artwork,
cool.
And it's unfortunate that he doesn't get to draw too many things because he just can't keep a monthly schedule. But whenever he does, man, it's great stuff.
Do you think he's going to do this whole book?
No, he's not.
I was going to say probably not. That's unfortunate. Well, it's cool though because it's oversized and it's clearly really finished and polished and not rushed at all. And
yeah, I mean, they definitely took their time here, and I think I got my $5 worth.
Oh, I felt that way too, yeah.
To a degree, especially since, like, the reprinted pages that are in here are something that I got for free anyway, so...
Yeah, well, I'll say something really horrible. Because I'm okay when a free comic book day thing will, like, give you the beginning of something.
Right.
I mean, I'd rather a whole issue, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, I got my $5 worth in the artwork. As I was reading this, I was so lost, with a lot of this. I mean, like, I don't know, I get the main beats, I guess, but let me ask you a question. Do you feel sometimes, because I haven't read any of the Infinity lead-up stuff, and so, I mean, like, partly I probably feel like this because there's stuff that would help me get more into this. Do you feel like Hickman is so experimental that he's got in his head this big, broad Hickman Marvel universe that goes all the way back to a point and all the way forward to a point. And like Morrison with Batman, if you were to read everything Hickman, it would all come together and it would all make a lot of sense. But if you try to read things individually, it's just like, because freaking as soon as Black Bolt showed up, I was like, I'm not going to understand what's going on now in this book. And that didn't really happen, but Black Bolt was the thing that turned me off to Hickman back during his Fantastic Four days, because FF had like 3 or 4 issues in a row that were just Black Bolt, and I didn't know why. And then he shows up here, and I was like, see, he's been seeding this for like 2 years.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, I'm with you on that, because I haven't even read all of Hickman's Fantastic Four run going back to the beginning. I tried his Avengers early on, and I just couldn't get into that at all. I love his new Avengers stuff, so I got all of the connections that were going on there.
That's good.
Yeah, this is really dense in that there's a lot of plots going on that sort of interconnect with each other throughout the issue, but a lot of it is just emotionally based sometimes on background that I just don't have.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things just missed for me. Mm-hmm. And there's all this talk about these beings called the Creators that supposedly create all life, and I'm not sure where they came from. Probably Hickman's Avengers run, but I don't know. There's a lot of things. I'll say this about it. This is probably one of the most inaccessible Marvel events that they've put out in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Not to say it's bad. It's just
not
that
bad.
If you haven't been keeping up with Hickman's stuff, this isn't going to be all that enjoyable to you, I don't think. Because personally, to me, like, I enjoyed this on the level of that I'm kind of excited to see where they go with some of the interesting ideas that Hickman has in here, because if anything, Hickman has a lot of very interesting ideas in his stories.
Well, he's such a cosmic guy, right?
Yeah, it's very existential, you know. He talks all about like the meaning of life and why we're here. All of those sorts of things are prevalent in this book, and Thanos obviously being the slave to death. It'll be interesting to see him juxtaposed with all those things.
Right.
So that's what I'm sort of excited to see. The thing is, like, there's so many plots going on here. I was just hoping for like a Thanos story, you know, but that's just me.
And where Thanos is at the end and where he's about to go, I mean, I was jazzed about that. I don't know if I can keep myself from not buying this. Like I kind of think I'm going to have to keep on it, but I don't know that I'm going to read any of the other things tied into it, so I don't think I'm going to have any idea what I'm reading if I buy it. That's sort of my fear. But the problem is, it's Thanos. I love Thanos. I like the way Hickman characterizes him, and when you get to, and I also know that what Aaron is doing with Thanos is supposed to play into this, so I sort of want to know what those tie-ins are. But you get to the end of this, and like, yeah, this is dense and there's a lot going on, and I'm not saying that it's that this is not worth anything but the last 3 pages, because I'm sure people that are following some of these characters will get more of what's going on than I did. But man, you get to those last couple pages, and it's mostly the setup for what Thanos is about to do, and that I want to see. This notion of people in the cosmos are scared of going after Earth because they always lose is a great idea and also hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
what I love about what Hickman does here is that it's, and this is going to sound like a bad word, but I don't mean it this way at all. This is so self-important. And it does it on purpose. Like, I could see somebody reading this and being turned off by that. But when I say self-important, what I mean is sometimes you'll have kind of like tongue-in-cheek things in a comic book where you'll do things like that, where like it's kind of commenting a little bit on comic book things, like, well, every single time someone fights a supervillain, they lose, and now the people in the universe are finally picking up on this. But here,
the Aaron Thor joke that we were speaking about earlier.
It's kind of like that. But yeah, actually, it's a lot like that. But in a lot of the things that I'm thinking of, there's something really quirky about it. This is not quirky. This is really serious. And yet what you're looking at, I mean, it's drawn in such a way where it seems like the most, like, magnificent and, like, serious and almost like Greek painting type stuff, you know, like antiquity thing. It seems really important, but it's absurd, and it's hard to keep that in mind that it's absurd. And I really like that. I think it's that juxtaposition is really cool.
I think that's the best way to do these sorts of superhero things, where like you treat the characters and the ideas seriously, like within the context of the universe, but you can do goofy things because you want to have fun with people in capes and tights punching each other. That's I think Hickman's got the tone of this down pretty well. Like, this is dark and serious at times, but it's not like past Marvel events where they're like so brooding and dark that it's just not to my taste. This is a big, grand space opera kind of thing.
It's definitely space opera, yeah. I honestly,
but it's got that science fiction existential kind of idea-driven things going on in it too. So I like that about it.
The only issue I'm having trying to read it is that it's just too freaking involved. I can't keep my attention on it.
Yeah, and the thing that worries me is there's this, like, diagram at the end of the issue that shows where all the tie-ins are supposed to fit in time-wise, and I'm thinking, well, if there's all these plots going on, are we even going to get the Thanos plot in this book?
I don't know.
Because I think the way that it's supposed to work is, like, each plot that's set up in this issue is going to be dealt with either in the mini or one of the two tie-in books.
Man,
so we'll see.
I don't know if I have the money or the care to read all of that. You know what I mean? And I mean, I could. I just don't know if I don't know. Anyway,
we'll see how the second issue goes. Hopefully, Hickman keeps it accessible enough. If you've just been reading the mini, that's what I'm hoping. But
the other thing I wanted to mention about the actual story in this is that when we read the Free Comic Book Day thing, it didn't occur to me that the creatures with the 4 arms and no eyes, the Outriders, that they were gonna be like really fascinating, and they're freaking fascinating.
Yeah, they are.
I was really interested in those.
Yeah, I loved the interaction that they had with Black Bolt. I didn't know really where that was going, and I've been a big fan of Hickman's, what he's been doing with that character in the new Avengers book. So I was very happy to see all that stuff going on. Yeah. The stuff that I got, I really liked.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move on then to Uncanny X-Men number 10. And this is, of course, a book that has been building and building Cyclops and his team's what's obviously eventually going to be probably an all-out what's the word I'm looking for? Revolution, mutant kind of revolution, and we're finally getting a lot closer to that here. I was kind of feeling. I didn't feel like a whole lot happened in this issue, but I thought that what did happen was kind of made it maybe the most important issue so far. What did you think of this?
Yeah, it's really interesting, the politics of this book, because it's sort of all about managing your public relations to a degree, and how the movement that you started, how that's viewed by the public, and how that can be subverted depending on who's interpreting your ideas and that sort of thing. Like, Cyclops comes into this rally of mutants sort of like speaking his cause, but painting the Fantastic Four and the Avengers as like this hated enemy of the tool of the establishment that is oppressing the mutants. And it's very similar to a lot of the movements happening right now in the American political sphere. Now that we know that of all that NSA spying things, a lot of people are really upset about that. They're painting the establishment as this like evil, hated enemy kind of thing. And I like that Bendis is sort of giving a voice to that sort of unrest in the country in this X-Men book. It's really cool to see. But I like that Cyclops comes out and says, like, no, these people aren't the enemy. They're also trying to help people. They have good intentions, but they're not necessarily doing things that I would agree with. That's not how I approach the situation. And there's a little bit more argument here as to whether Cyclops was justified in what he did in AVX and those sorts of things. So I'm a big Cyclops fan, so I can't get enough of like studying his character and the implications of his character on the rest of the Marvel Universe. So I enjoyed all that stuff quite a bit. And then Magneto is one of my other favorite X-Men characters, and he was the latter part of the issue dealt with his relationship with Maria Hill. So that was very cool to see. As
we've had since AVX, I feel like the writing for Cyclops between these books has all been really consistent, at least from what I can see from my reading. writing, and you and I, when we did AVX, when we reviewed the AVX, we both had very differing ideas about Cyclops and about how we felt about what he did, and I feel like I continue to interpret Cyclops from this place of I don't entirely trust what he's doing, and where like I know his intentions are good and his heart's in the right place, but when I read this issue, I kept thinking Cyclops is not aware of the fact that it was his extreme rash actions that brought on all of this. Like, he seems to not really get that, and I think that's really interesting. I don't know if you agree with me, but I just kind of see it as Cyclops walks in and he's like, "Whoa, folks, you New Mutants are taking things way too far, blaming the Avengers and everything," and it's like, yeah, but remember what you did during AVX and how you were, what do you call it, fighting a war against those people, it's just interesting because like they probably think they're leading by his example. A lot of them were like
That's
wearing
exactly
Cyclops things, and they were wearing. And remember there was the little girl with the creepy storm hat, and all these things. Everybody wants to be an X-Man. And I like, by the way, that they're all like touting up the X-Men and obviously hero worshipping them, and then suddenly the X-Men walk in, and that's just like this big freaking deal. Like Cyclops is a god to these people right now, and he's got to be really careful because again, his heart is in the right place, or at least he believes in what he's doing. I don't know if I agree with everything he's doing, but he really believes in what he's doing, and he's not like evil or anything, but like, boy, he's got so much power right now, maybe too much.
Yeah, see, I read it a little bit differently than you, which is interesting.
I knew you would, yeah.
Which is a testament to the book, I think.
Yeah, I think it is too.
The way I sort of read it was Cyclops realizes that he made mistakes, and maybe this war they fought with the Avengers. At the time, he was sort of the Avengers are the enemy, and then when he realizes the Phoenix is a force that he can't control, he's saying, okay, the Avengers have good intentions, they do want to help people, you guys shouldn't be antagonizing them the way I did before when I thought they were the enemy too.
See, I saw it a lot more as Cyclops going, no, you guys misinterpreted what I was trying to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we're ever going to see Cyclops apologize.
Well, I mean, he's sort of like taught. That was one of the big things with one of the early issues of All New X-Men, was him and Magneto sort of confronting the mistakes that he made. And
that's true.
Says that he can't run away from them, and how he's going to have to confront them, and those sorts of things.
Well, yeah.
So that's just what I was thinking of when I was reading that, but I'm not sure if that's the way you're supposed to. What Bendis intended, I'm not really sure.
I don't either.
But that's the great thing about good fiction writing is you write something that people can draw different meanings from.
There is this hilarious panel. I just want to throw this out there because I don't know if you had this, but you probably didn't. But I turned the page. This was like the third page, somebody says I think it's Magic who's like or Emma Frost, who's like Magneto is wherever he wants to be, and then you turn the page and it's this bird's eye view of him sitting in his room, but because of the way it's shot and because it's tile floor, I totally thought he was in a bathroom. I really did. Like, I drew the page and I was like, wait, is he sitting on a toilet? And then when you look down on the next panel, it totally looks like that could be what he's doing, and it just really made me laugh. Anyway,
I didn't even think of that, but that's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that?
I really liked the artwork in it.
A stupid thing to mention.
It's a pretty good job.
Anyway, I just felt the need to mention that because I thought it was funny. Yeah. Let's go ahead and move on. Yeah, I think the art's great. Oh, and that little, or not little, but that big flashback panel of him actually fighting the X-Men back in the day was really cool looking.
Yes, it was.
Let's go now to our last book together, which is Batman number 23. Taking quite the turn here, going places I really didn't expect, and making Edward Nygma so much more important to the backstory of Bruce Wayne than, well, it would be dumb to say than he ever has been before, because having him there at all would be that, but like, I immediately when I finished this issue, I found myself thinking I want to go back and read the other two issues with this because I'm already feeling like I'm not picking up on all of the connotations of why Snyder is making some of the choices he's making. What did you think of how involved Edward Nygma is in all this, and his trying to kill Bruce Wayne? What did you think of that?
I like it just because I like the Riddler a lot, and
Me too.
I think the thing that works so well about it is the arc of this story so far seems to be Bruce Wayne can't be the kind of hero that we know him as, just being a thug alone and not thinking and not being the world's greatest detective. He hasn't really learned how to do that yet. He has all the physical training. He's been around the world learning all the martial arts and stuff, but he doesn't have the mind, the brains to do what is required of Batman doing. So the Riddler is a really great foil for that sort of character arc in that story, just in his name alone and the things that he does. So I like all of that juxtaposition and all of those parallels going on. Some of the choices in how they get Batman to the places that he gets to, especially the bat flying through the window thing, I think are a little more involved than they really need to be. Like there's this whole thing about like a hollow ball that Thomas Wayne left for Bruce Wayne in this like chest, and it like creates this hallucination of like a bat cave, and like the bat flies through the window while he's hallucinating. I'm like, dude, you could have just had the bat fly through the window. It would have been fine.
See, I keep wondering how much of that isn't Snyder playing with Morrison because of the whole Batman going back in time thing and leaving clues and stuff. But I don't know if any of that's actually part of this. I have no idea. But
I doubt it.
But I'm with you.
Yeah.
No, you're right. But if it's not that, then yeah, you're absolutely right. It's way too it's way too involved, and too much of this kind of, I don't know. Yeah, that was a little silly. But
that was the one scene that I took issue with. The rest of the issue is fine. I just thought it was a little too self-indulgent for my taste.
Yeah, and I got the sense that this isn't going to be like I thought it was. I don't think this is going to be 12 issues of Batman in a costume.
I don't think so either. And I really like what he's doing with the Red Hood gang in this too. They're turning out to be a really interesting sort of foil as an entity for Batman.
But can I ask you a question? Do you think, because I just can't decide, do you think, every time I can't make a decision, I just ask Dan questions, just to kind of state things I'm wondering about, because I haven't made up my mind about it. Do you think that the death of Bruce Wayne's parents is too important?
A little bit. But there
was a little bit of that.
I could sort of buy it just because, if Thomas and Martha Wayne weren't such prominent figures in the Gotham City, like the history of Gotham City, because they're like humanitarians, they fixed up the city, so they're important figures in the city. I can sort of buy some of the things that are connected to their death and how it would affect people, but maybe not to this degree. I'm with you a little bit on that.
I liked how it was handled in Batman Begins, because it was like their deaths were kind of representative of something bigger that was going on. Where it was
the decay of the city after they passed and sort of coincided with each other.
And so when these really rich, but also important people in the community that people looked up to and respected and appreciated the fact that they actually helped the helpless get killed, then it kind of shocks the as Alfred says in that movie, the wealthy into power. That kind of thing I sort of buy, but this, the Red Hood, the guy leading the Red Hood gang being inspired to become a supervillain based on that, I wondered about it.
Yeah,
but I'm critiquing this in the middle of the story that's not over.
The person under the mask is for me.
If it is the guy, because people keep speculating about this, I think they're all wrong. If it is the guy who inevitably becomes the Joker, I'm going to really hate this story.
I don't think that's where he's going.
I don't think that's where he's going either.
They talk about them dealing with a guy that's like a card in the beginning of this issue.
I missed that. Really?
Yeah, they talk about another guy that they're familiar with that, Batman's going to become good friends with someday. So they're basically making a, reference to the Joker and that they've encountered him before.
Yeah, if they did, because I just missed it. If Snyder wrote that, don't you think that that maybe he put that in there to tip people off? Don't worry, the guy in the Red Hood is not the Joker. Because people keep saying that. I keep hearing people say that. I'm like, that can't be it.
Well, I mean, I think the only reason people think that is because that was the original origin for the Joker, and that happens in The Killing Joke and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see if he's like, if that's a red herring and it really is the Joker, or he's just letting people know. Who knows? I'm not really sure. But
yeah, but wouldn't that be weird if like the Joker was inspired by the death of Bruce Wayne's parents? It's like the reverse of '89. I don't know. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it would all depend on how he did it. I don't want to count out any idea that he might have, because Snyder sold me on a lot of this, especially. He sold me on a lot of ideas that I thought that he, wouldn't interest me.
I guess I'm just saying that us knowing who the Joker is before he's the Joker is not. It's not just contrary to pre-52 Batman. It's kind of contrary to some of the stuff Snyder's done with him. I just don't know that I would want to see that.
Right. We'll see.
But anyway.
I'm with you. I probably would like it to be someone else, just because we had that Joker story before, and I'd like to explore some other characters too.
Me too.
So
there was a name drop here that was really interesting. I don't know that you caught it, because I don't know how well you know this series, but when Bruce Wayne when they attack Bruce Wayne and everything, and then Edward Nygma is talking to the guy that he inevitably does horrible things to. From earlier in this, there is a name drop that the next wealthy family they're going to try to deal with is the Powers, and the Powers family was huge in Batman Beyond, and I cannot believe that he's referencing Batman Beyond in this book, but he totally does.
That's the second reference.
Because
we saw the suit earlier too.
Yeah, so he's doing something with that, because in Batman Beyond, the opening of that show, Wayne actually has a conglomeration with Powers, and the company becomes Wayne Powers. That is a big freaking deal.
Well, maybe Terry McGinnis will be the new Robin. Who knows?
No, I don't want him to do that, because I want Batman Beyond to actually still be in the future. But anyway, I just thought that was really fascinating that suddenly he's seeding that. Well, Diana, let's go ahead and go to our solo stuff. And what do you want to start with?
I have actually 2 issues I'm going to review at the same time, because this was a 2-issue crossover that began and ended this week between Superior Spider-Man Team Up number 2 and Scarlet Spider number 20. The story is called Sibling Rivalry, and it's basically a team up between Kane and Dr. Octopus in Peter Parker's body. And for people that may not be familiar with Spider-Man continuity, the villain of this is the Jackal, and that putting these 3 characters together in a story intrigued me immediately, because you have all these pre-existing relationships with those characters. Like, Kane killed Dr. Octopus in the 90s. He snapped his neck when he was in a taxi. So you have that baggage going on. The Jackal, it has the whole scientist parallel going on with Doc Ock, and he's the person who cloned Kane.
Yeah.
And then you have the Jackal's obsession with the Stacy family and Gwen Stacy. Dr. Octopus killed Captain Stacy. So there's all these really interesting connections between the characters, and throwing them all in the same story together really intrigued me. So that premise alone, plus Christopher Yost and Eric Burnham on Scarlet Spider number 20, I was like, these guys are going to knock this out of the park. And for the most part, I think they did a pretty good job. It's interesting to see Kane come back and see Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man's body, because he's sort of investigating why Dr. Octopus has been doing all these terrible things in Peter Parker's body. And, Peter Parker is sort of the moral standard to which Kane holds himself, so it's interesting to see his hero, like, torn down in his eyes, and have to defy the person that he's been looking up to since he started this whole superhero thing. That's an interesting thing for him to go through. Dr. Octopus is humbled a little bit, because he thinks clones to be beneath him, and thinks Kane to be like a mindless killer, obviously, because the encounters he had with him before. So that stuff's all really interesting. Technically, it's a really well-done story. Reading Dr. Octopus as a protagonist, I don't find to be a very pleasant experience, just because he's just such an unlikable person. He's just very... They call him Superior Spider-Man for a reason. He, has this uppity about him. He thinks he's better than everybody. And, I don't know, that's just not the character I want to read. We have these, 2 really dark characters playing off of each other, and Kane's more like Peter Parker, obviously, than Dr. Octopus is. But, nobody's any fun,
Yeah.
So that's the only criticism I have of it. It's sort of like this Spider-Man book and Kane's the funniest guy in it, which is kind of strange to me. That's the only real criticism I have of it, just the premise, sort of, which I suppose isn't really all that fair, but that was the only, like, unenjoyable thing I had about it. The artwork in the first issue was done by Marco Cicchetto, who drew the Daredevil, Punisher, and Spider-Man crossover earlier.
Oh, man, so good!
Yeah, he drew Superior Spider-Man Team Up number 2, and that artwork is great, and then you get to this issue. And the artwork is done, it's not even done by a person, it's done by a digital art rendering studio.
What?
And it's really stiff looking, and it has this like really painted kind of ultra digital look to it. It's not like hand painted, I don't know really how to describe it other than showing you some of the panels here that look kind of strange. This panel, especially with Jackal here, that's what the art looks like in this book.
No! Why?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this question: why would you choose to experiment with that in the second part of a 2-issue story?
Yeah, it's very jarring because you go from like the not traditional but like really great looking penciled art from Marco Cicchetto in the first issue, and then you go to that, and it's just
that kind of thing. If you're even going to do it, should be reserved for one shot or its own several part story. But don't jump around with that. It's bad enough when you have two artists that have entirely different sensibilities and line drawings and things, but like then to go from a person to freaking that's bizarre, man.
It's very bizarre. What I was sort of thinking about it when I was reading it is it's sort of Clayton Crane-esque, which I know Clayton Crane doesn't. I think he does hand paint all of this stuff, but this is definitely digitally rendered, but it has a similar look, and I just personally don't care for his art style. So that was a little weird. But other than that, I really enjoyed the story. It goes back to like, 70s Spider-Man stuff with like the from that they touch on the Clone Saga too, about the smokestack that the Spider clone gets dropped in the 70s, and that Jerry Conway story with the Jackal. So if you're a Spider-Man fan, it touches on a lot of those plot threads that have been sort of dangling ever since the 70s and then the 90s and forward. So it's very cool stuff, and it's done in an interesting way. It's the Clone Saga being remembered in an interesting and great way. Yost is doing some pretty good work with these two books, and if it wasn't for the unlikability of this protagonist, I'd be tempted to pick up this book, because Yost is doing a good job with both of them. I'm just a little worried that Scarlet Spider is on its slow march to cancellation, because it hasn't had a consistent artist in a few issues now, and there's someone co-writing it, which, Byrne's not a bad writer. It's just that Yost is moving on to do the second, big flagship Spider-Man relaunch team-up book, and this has been going on for a little while, and they can't seem to even keep an artist on it, and he's going to have to co-write it now. So we'll see how it goes. I'd be really disappointed if the book got canceled, and the ending of this is sort of very telling, too. We'll see where it goes, but something happens to Kane where it looks like his time as the Scarlet Spider might be coming to an end. So we'll see where that goes, but I'd highly recommend these two issues. It's good. It's a good story.
Well, I'll suggest two things to you about that, about the possibility of the cancellation. First of all, the book's gone longer than I ever would have imagined it would,
Yes.
and so that's really quite great. Something called Scarlet Spider to get more than 10 issues, more than even 8 issues. I'm impressed. Secondly, I had a second thing. I forgot what it was. What was it? I don't remember. Anyway, I had another thing. I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry. The other thing is, if it's got to end and they're setting it up, if it actually gets an ending, that'd be great. At least there'll be some finality to it. Because what I really hate is when you get some long form storytelling going on. You get 23 issues and then it's done, and you're like, it's not done, but it's done.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that if it does continue and Yost has to leave, they give it to Burnham.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good handover. From what I've read of each of them, I think that they're comparable writers. I mean, I think that one is not better than the other.
Right. I mean, the only negative from this would be that Burnham gets his foot in the door at Marvel, starts writing some other things, and hopefully continues to write it on IDW, does Ghostbusters. So
yeah, hopefully.
I think this is only a good thing for him coming on to co-write. So.
Oh yeah. Well, it's great for his career. I care a lot about seeing him come up and up and up, because I'm sort of friends with him, and I like him a lot.
And he's got the chops,
I want him to keep rising. Yeah. Boy, when he first started, and I started reading books from him, I was like, this guy is gonna be a star eventually. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to now review a Batgirl number 23. Which was a really, really good issue. And I gotta tell you, man, Gail Simone is rocking it out on this. I cannot believe the place that she has gone with this. Here's how epic this is, okay? First of all, I've said this before, Batgirl is a book that I was not on board with from the beginning just because I didn't like what they did with the Oracle thing. And I keep coming back to it because it's Gail Simone. It's the only thing she's really doing right now for DC, and I really like her writing, and like Barbara Gordon is always been something that she loves and a big thing for her to work on. So it's really hard not to keep going back to it because every time I pick it up, it's really good. Imagine, if you will, because this goes to kind of some old classic major tropes where you have like the where you have the mentor or fatherly type character who hates the superhero, but doesn't realize that the superhero is either their protege or their son or daughter. Now imagine that you have that with Jim Gordon. Except that it isn't just your kind of like broad Batgirl's a vigilante and she shouldn't be on the streets and we've got to go catch her and I don't know that she's actually Barbara Gordon. Imagine if it is instead he thinks that Batgirl killed his son and he's trying to bring her down.
That's interesting.
So good, yeah. Really cool place to go with this. I've never like Gail Simone, as I always said, loves to tear her characters down and see if they can pick themselves back up from it. And this is nuts. This is just absolutely insane. He's trying to find Batgirl. She's not putting the costume on right now because of what happened with James Jr. and thinking that she's killed him, and everybody still thinks that Batgirl killed him. There is evidence here and there from other things apparently that I've been told that he's actually not dead. But so allegedly he's not dead, but everybody thinks that he is. And so Gordon is trying to bring her down, but she's not wearing the costume, so nobody can find her. And what happens here is the guy who she dated was dating last issue. I remember I was telling about the guy who used to be a car thief, but he's like gone straight and narrow now. And we had a really cute, fun issue where she was dating him. Well, naturally, if you do something that fun and lighthearted, she's got to take that whole thing and make it absolutely terrifying. And that kid's brother is in some bad illegal stuff, and he's got to go try and rescue him, and then he gets in deep in some bad stuff. And so basically what we end up with at the end of this issue is, without giving away how it ends, is Gordon out on the town trying to find Batgirl and running leads and things. And then he hears about this unrelated thing, and so he goes and investigates this. And so he goes to where Barbara Gordon's boyfriend is about to get murdered. Barbara is there in like a ski mask kind of get up without the Batgirl costume, so even if Gordon sees her, he wouldn't know it's Batgirl. She's trying to stop this kid's brother from getting killed, and she's got kind of a personal connection in her head to this because she feels responsible for killing her own brother, so she's trying to atone for it by saving this other kid's brother. It's so intricate and personal, and yeah, really good.
That sounds great.
And then the ending is really nuts, and I won't tell you what happens in it. But also one of the coolest covers I've seen in a while. Batgirl wrapped up in police tape. Really.
Oh, that's a cool image.
Really cool image. Anyway, I've never seen Gordon this angry at someone that he has no idea is actually, his daughter, that sort of thing. And also, a couple issues ago, or maybe it was even last issue, I wasn't able to say this on camera, but I'll say it now. This gets even more complicated because Gordon, of course, somewhat blames Batman for this too, because Batgirl is affiliated with Batman,
right? Yeah.
And Batman can't keep a leash on his Bat people from Gordon's perspective. So there's this great panel where he just punches Batman in the face. He just decks him out over
awesome.
it. Yeah,
I like that.
How much more would he be pummeling on him if he realized that Batgirl was his daughter?
I don't care how good Batman is at fighting; he'd be done.
Yeah, he'd be done. So I mean, this is just like heart racing type drama, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very.
It reminds me of like the Aunt May thing back in the day, where
it's just like that.
She'd see Spider-Man on TV, be like, "Oh, he's so dangerous and off the rails. I hate that guy." While Peter Parker's in the room. That's cool.
But yeah, man, it's really intense, and I'm impressed.
That's awesome.
Okay, your turn. Go ahead.
The next book I have is Wolverine the X-Men, number 34. This is, of course, Jason Aaron and Nick Bradshaw again, and this is the...
All right, go ahead.
All right, so the next book I have is Wolverine the X-Men, number 34. This is, of course, once again by Jason Aaron and Nick Bradshaw. This is the penultimate issue of the Hellfire Saga, part 4 or 5. And this is kind of the big action payoff issue where we get... the Krakoa that the Jean Grey school sits upon, and a big Gundam-style robot thing made by Iceman fighting all these evil Krakoas that are that comprise the Hellfire Academy's island. So it's kind of this like Pacific Rim kind of battle going on for most of the issue, which is really fun. And the X-Men are involved, of course. The Hellfire Club is sort of the Hellfire Academy is sort of collapsing around the club as they're being attacked by the X-Men. Everything's going to heck, and we have these really emotionally resonant scenes in between where we have like Toad and his lover fighting, and Heidi talks a lot about when she's fighting with the Hellfire Club too, about how that's sort of what it looks like to be in love. Is it's like it's painful but delightful at the same time. There's ups and downs to it. When you're a good person, you get to feel the range of emotions, whereas like if you're this hateful, evil person, that's all that you're gonna ever find in your life. And those are the sorts of themes that have been running through this book. Through the whole thing, and I really like that sort of message, and it's that kind of heavy emotional resonance message thing that Aaron likes to do, coupled with, again, his really quirky, over-the-top, great, in my opinion, humor of this book. For example, there's this one hilarious scene where Dupe, who had a hilarious one-off issue not too long, I think it was issue 17, Mike Allred drew that one. He's sort of the guy that makes the school run behind the scenes, and nobody really knows it, and he has to do all these like really degrading things to make it happen. And there's the scene in here where to distract Mojo, or Lady Mojo, I think she's called, he puts in his home videos from 1994, and they have an NC-17 rating on them, and it makes them both claw their eyes out. They're that gratuitous and terrible, I guess. So that was just one of the most hilarious things I've seen in these comics in a while. I always love Dupe whenever he shows up. So yeah, this is a really fun issue, and it's continuing, of course, the trend and the tone of Wolverine the X-Men that I personally really like. So I highly recommend this. It's good stuff.
Next up, I've got Batman Arkham Unhinged number 17, which was a really strange kind of second part of a story. First of all, I thought that the story that Karen Traviss is doing was going to be just these 2 issues, but it continues. I didn't realize it was going to be a full arc. I didn't look into it. And so I expected, we had these letters from this villain called the Bookbinder that gives these kind of cryptic clues based on classic literature. It's kind of fun, and is angry at people for not having enough education and things. And I really was enjoying all of that. This is part of the same arc, but gets completely away from that until the end when it comes back, because it opens with, "Oh, we haven't heard from the Bookbinder for a while. Let's do some Arkham City politics." And the politics that are dealt with in this are somewhat present in the first issue, but I mean, like I remember when I reviewed the first issue saying that they easily could have taken this and made it not an Arkham thing. That it seemed like just a place to put this story.
Right.
Well, this has quite a bit more to do with Arkham, and it's really kind of creepy and wrong. What it does is creepy is not the right word. It's uncomfortable because it's all about what Mayor Sharp and Hugo Strange, of course Hugo Strange doesn't appear in this issue, are doing at the beginning of building Arkham City. This is kind of toward the beginning of all that, where Arkham City has been built, but people don't like it, people are protesting it, and they're starting to just imprison anybody that doesn't agree with them. And the way they're doing it is really wrong. Like, more and more, the way it continues to build is we've got like a certain amount of people we want to put in Arkham City, so we have to figure out a way to make it look like people have done crimes that they haven't done, and to make things illegal that shouldn't be illegal. And then suddenly Mayor Sharp puts in a curfew just because he knows he can get more people thrown in jail for not managing a curfew, because a curfew for no reason all of a sudden out of nowhere is like really difficult for people to deal with, because people have lives and they go out at night and stuff. And it's freaking like Gotham City, so like you know it's a city that kind of runs at night. So anyway, it deals with how Gordon has to be kind of a puppet of the established law, and he doesn't like it, but what's he going to do? And so he has to enforce this curfew that he doesn't agree with, and he and his men keep getting stuck in places where they have to arrest people for like nothing. And then Sharp's got these other enforcers running around by the end of this, like pretending like people are doing crimes they're not doing, and then throwing them in Arkham City. And the worst one is there's this older lady that's just standing there protesting, and I don't know if it's a Tiger agent or what exactly it is, but this enforcer that doesn't look affiliated with Jim Gordon walks up to her, and she's standing next to a window. He just punches out the window and says, "I saw that," and throws her in Arkham City.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
see,
it's
that's
like
a
that.
Great idea that I don't know that, I mean, you might have seen it before, because you've read more Batman than I have, but we had talked a little bit, I think in the last show, about the Frank Miller take on Batman, where he's like a benevolent fascist kind of thing, using fear to control the bad people, not everybody.
Right.
It's interesting to throw that guy into a police state situation.
Yeah.
Because that's, what he would be if he tried to control everybody. That's interesting.
And so you've got Batman trying to solve this mystery of this bookbinder guy in the middle of having to deal with that kind of thing. And then the really scary line is I forget who it is that says it, but there's a point where somebody says, at the rate things are going, Gotham is going to become a is going to be like smaller, or like Arkham's going to become smaller than Gotham, or I'm sorry, Arkham's going to become bigger than Gotham, yeah. and I'm just like, oh my god, that's just messed up.
Yeah, that sounds really great.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Is that still Derek Friedolf's doing that?
No, like I said, this one is by Karen Travis.
Yes. I like her a lot. She
okay.
Republic Commando novels, the Star Wars Republic Commando novels I used to read as a kid. So she's good. Good chops.
Oh, I know what the line was. It was. I'm sorry. It was Gotham will become a suburb of Arkham. And I was like, whoa.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Anyway, go ahead.
All right, the last book I have is Star Wars #8. This is by Brian Wood, and Ryan Kelly is still doing the art on this book. And this continues to be a lot of fun, and doing some interesting things with the characters, too, especially Princess Leia, who has been really the focus of this, which I don't mind, because she had the least to do in the original trilogy in the first place anyway. So we have 3 plots mainly going on, which we've been setting up since the first issue and getting them into these different places. Luke and Wedge Antilles are on this mission on, I think it's a Star Destroyer, trying to infiltrate Imperial ranks, and they're sort of like doing the New Hope, infiltrating the Death Star scene, but like if Luke learned from his experiences there and did it better. So it's a lot of fun. Like they're referencing like all the bad things that they did when they went on the Death Star, and Luke's saying it's actually like a lot harder to impersonate a stormtrooper than you think, and things like that.
That's
so that
funny.
was a lot of fun. And then the plot with Leia comes in, and she goes to Alderaan, the void where it is now, this sort of asteroid field, and she's like remembering, her planet and stuff, and something happens that seems to indicate that she might not be the only survivor of the planet.
Oh, wow.
And that's really interesting, and it sets up a whole sort of implications for her character, because, before she had been the last daughter of a world that was dead, or she was the last part of a culture that had died too. So that's really interesting. It's sort of left ambiguous as to whether it's the Imperials leading her into a very well orchestrated trap, or if it's actually an Alderaanian, and if it's who I think it is, that will be really, really interesting. So I'll be very interested to see where that goes. And then Han Solo and Chewbacca are on the run from Boba Fett, and I freaking love Boba Fett, Han Solo, and Chewbacca, so that's awesome. It's just a big epic space battle, and typical Han Solo pulling his, really fun pilot tricks, and using subtlety to defeat people in those space battles, and that's always a lot of fun, him using his wits and stuff. So, if you like Star Wars, you can't really go wrong with this book. It's a lot of fun, and this particularly isn't like the deepest character study issue. It's a lot of moving the plot forward as we had gotten from the previous issues, but it does enough interesting things with Leia's character, enough interesting revelations that I really still did enjoy this. It's good stuff.
What nobody knows, of course, is that because Princess Leia is the last survivor of Alderaan, that if you took her and put her on Earth, she would have like superpowers and she could like fly around and stuff. I have 2 more books to review, and I meant to go first. I totally botched that because you had 3 and then 2, or 2 together. You had 2 and then 2 together. So I'll do these as quickly as I can. The first thing I've got of my final 2 is X-Files number 3. This suddenly becomes more followable and more interesting all at the same time. Holy crap! This is great. This just like takes the guys in the hoods that have been that we found out last issue were definitely aliens, and like tells you suddenly exactly what it is they're doing. Well, assuming we can trust the cigarette smoking man, that's always the battle, right? So like we know what he's claiming they're doing, except that then what they're doing seems to go along with that. So hopefully, it's actually what it is that they say. Basically, the whole idea with this is it seems at this point to be, at least with this issue, because I don't know if it's going to get more convoluted and muddled later, because it is X-Files after all. But it's basically like, okay, so for all those seasons, for 9 seasons on the show, we had this conspiracy in the background where allegedly the idea was that the government, because you can never be entirely sure what was going on, that the government and these aliens had this kind of like really loose, uneasy sort of truce, and they were kind of trying to work together to keep some other aliens from invading, and it was a really complicated sort of thing. Well, the thing is, the invasion that that the Smoking Man kept apparently trying to prevent, and was doing so partly by helping create this like new breed of aliens with a cross thing with humans and all these things they were doing, was in fact by the end of the series it never actually happened. And what they're doing with season 10 is let's have the invasion actually happen. So cool. We never got to do a real alien invasion in X-Files. Now that it's off TV and it's we're doing this comic book later, let's just frickin' go all the way. And
do you like that though, that they're doing things that they wouldn't be able to do on a TV budget as a season continuation of the series? Because I remember that's something that you had talked a little bit about not particularly caring for with like the Buffy comics and things like that.
So far, there's not a single thing in here you couldn't shoot on TV.
Oh, really? Okay.
And yeah, it's just they're going there story-wise. I mean, so far it's just been like guys in hoods that claim to be aliens with like blue stuff coming out of their eyeballs and like trains and snow and stuff. Like there's nothing they could. It all looks like stuff they would have shot on a TV budget so far. So yeah, that didn't even enter into my mind. But yeah, so you know, you got Cigarette Smoking Man claiming to try to protect Mulder like he always has been, explaining what these acolytes are trying to do. The acolytes are able to pretend to be people, and specific people, and so there's a little bit of question here and there as to who's human, who's an acolyte, and I kind of like that sort of mystery, because that's very, very, very X-Files. Anyway, I was going to keep reading this because I was enjoying it enough, but I'm suddenly really on board with this, because at this point, at least this issue, I found a lot easier to read and follow, having not finished, you know, the actual TV show. But I still need to do that, because reading letters pages, it looks like they're going to get really involved and bring in more and more characters that you'd never thought you'd see again, and I don't want characters to pop up that I should be excited about but don't know who they are or have forgotten who they are. So anyway, I'm still highly recommending this book. The art is more and more growing on me. It's really, really minimalistic. It seems to be as minimal as it is to do exactly what you're talking about, to make it seem like it's still a TV show, you know, it's still small, but the ideas are big, you know, that sort of thing. So anyway, yeah,
doing it again,
straight up doing Alien Invasion. I'm excited about that. That's really cool. I didn't know if they'd go that big. So, but then there's always, is it really that big? Because it's X-Files. I don't know. So anyway. That's kind of fun. Okay, the last thing I've got is Spawn number 234. We got Haunt on the cover, Spawn and Haunt, because
boy.
Yeah, yay, you know, because everybody loves Haunt. So Haunt's character I've never read about. Well, I take that back. I read one issue once and don't remember what the heck happened in it, except I remember reading it and going, this is like Spawn, because, you know,
and he looks like Spider-Man if he had Venom's mouth.
Because that's kind of true. I mean, the thing about Haunt is that he's just another McFarlane creation with a symbiote. Like, I don't really know how there's all that much of a difference between him and Spawn, and I don't know where his powers and things come from because I've just not looked into him. I don't know anything about Haunt. But here he's pretending to be a priest. Or maybe Haunt really is a priest. I don't know. I don't know anything about Haunt. Anyway, you got this priest that's kind of giving Curse a bunch of crap. They're in a church and they're talking, and he's kind of leading Curse on to think that he can go back to serving God, because in the old Spawn comics, Curse. We haven't seen Curse in a long time. Curse was like working for God, but he was a total like really extreme, crazy cultist, and like he cut his own arm off in the pursuit of godly things, and he wanted to prove to God how much he cared about his cause, and so he sliced his own arm off, and then suddenly this priest. Well, anyway, so later on, he decides that God has forsaken him, and he works to try to destroy hell, even though he doesn't also care about heaven anymore. He's like on his own. Interestingly, this issue is somewhat about those ideas, even though Curse has now put himself. I don't know exactly why, but Curse has put himself back in line with wanting to do God's will. I guess the whole working on my own thing didn't work out for him. And so there's a lot of talk in this issue about people trying to. In fact, I got to hand it to McFarlane. His opening narration in this is really good, and there's a blogger that's writing this blog, and I don't know that we know who it is, but there's this blogger that's writing this blog about how. In this reality, people will keep trying to like go their own way and be their own people, but then there is a heaven and a hell, and you can't really be right in the middle. And interestingly, McFarlane is always. In these books, tried to write to varying degrees of success. The kind of there isn't really good and evil. There's only shades of gray. But then what he's saying here, which I don't think is necessarily contrary to that, when you have something that purports to be good and something that purports to be evil, whether they really are evil or not, they have all the power, and so you do kind of get suckered into serving one or the other. And so I think that's pretty fascinating. It's like if you're not with us, you're against us, and if you could be sure that you really did have, this war between heaven and hell. then it would make sense that would be a thing, and I think that there's some commentary there with how some maybe more extreme kinds of religious people sort of look at it that way, where it's like well, if you're not worshiping God and serving God, then you must be evil. And then there's talk even about how atheists land, and it's certainly a little bit on the nose, but after a while, when you're doing something that puts religion so far on the forefront, how do you stay away from that without just repeating yourself? So I don't really have a problem with the fact that McFarlane's going there. It's really the most interesting thing in the book. All the stuff he's been doing with the Catholic Church and all that is way more interesting than what he's doing with the mythos and the Spawn costume. I gotta say this issue was the best one I've read in a while. I still don't understand who Haunt is, but you get to the end of this and Spawn gets a visit from. Well, Spawn, Jim Downing, because Jim Downing is barely Spawn now, because he's kind of...
It's just the costume now, right?
Well, he's still got the costume, but he's kind of at war with it, to a degree, and, they don't get along, him and the costume has its own goals and stuff, and so anyway, he gets I'll spoil this, hopefully nobody minds, but you get to the end of this, and basically, he gets a visit from the one of the sons of Twitch Williams, in like this kind of ethereal plane kind of thing, because he died, and I'm not sure if he's still dead. I'm lost on that, but whatever. Anyway, he kind of shows up, and he's like, I talked to Al Simmons, and I think the idea was that. No, it wasn't Al that told him to do this. It was Twitch. It's involved. It's hard to keep track. Anyway. Basically, there's a message, and the message is you've got to kill your costume. And so if it doesn't take 50 issues to get to him trying to do that, it'll be interesting. It is taking forever for anything to actually happen in this book, but I did enjoy. There's still tons and tons of talking, but there was a little bit more of a variety to the themes and the ideas in this book, and again, not a whole great deal happening, but I don't know, but it was much better than it has been. So,
well, at least Haunt's presence, if anything, made the book a little bit more interesting because he was able to talk about all that stuff about heaven and hell in the book.
Yeah, and also Haunt does something major that I won't give away in case anybody is actually reading the book, but It's somewhat more of a real reveal, I thought, than, hey, Jim, you should kill your costume, because frankly, that's where it's been going.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, well, it's time now for Book of the Week, and Dan, I don't know whose turn it is, so I'll let you go. Go ahead. What is your book for the week?
Well, I was looking through all the books here, and undisputably, there's nothing I enjoyed more than Thor: God of Thunder number 11. This was just the best thing I read this week in terms of quality, how much fun I had with it, how much I laughed. Everything about it I really liked, and like we've been saying since it's been going, now this is over, we should, at some point, after we finish Walter Simonson's run on Thor, review this too, because that would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the one book I totally gushed over and didn't really have any criticisms at all about, well, I guess I didn't really say anything negative about Arkham Unhinged, but Batgirl was amazing. I was really blown away by this issue, and I don't know, Gail Simone has this ability to just make me cringe and then finish and be like, oh, I kind of enjoyed the cringy thing. So yeah,
I wish he had more projects going on.
I wish so too. Yeah,
DC, because I know she's writing a book called like The Green Team, which is about like the 99% kind of Occupy personification of the wealth in the country, and they're like the 99%, or I don't know if they're either the 99% or the 1%. It's all about that kind of thing, and they're like superheroes. But that's the only other thing I know that she's writing for DC.
I didn't even know about that. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's great. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, anyway, I don't know. I'm sure if you're reading that, let us know how it is. Anyway, well, once again, as always, thanks again to Elite Comics for helping us out with the show. If you're ever in the Kansas City area, be sure to check out Elite Comics in Overland Park. It's a fantastic store and where I do all of my comic book shopping. Dan, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. As always, it's been a fantastic time.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you again next week with lots more comic reviews. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Dan.
Happy reading.